How you doing, bro? Good. How you doing? Nice to see you.
You too.
You've missed about 10 minutes of fart talk.
Okay, good. Farting as it relates to what?
It's about 30 minutes, so I'll just pop in and give you.
Amazing, thank you.
How you doing, Chief?
Doing well?
Yeah?
How you doing?
Good.
Oh, is this the reunion? You guys haven't seen each other yet?
I mean, since Venice?
No, but
No, New York last time.
no, that was before Venice.
Yeah,
That was before. Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while.
yeah,
You were supposed to be here.
yeah. I just got back from Dublin and I'm exhausted.
Oh yeah, because you did a reshoot there, right?
Yeah.
Is this already recording?
I can stop it. All good. Or cut it out. Whatever you want. You want me to stop?
You got something to show me?
I'll show you guys at the end.
Okay, show me at the end. Okay. Ooh, you guys won't know it, but he showed me something cool later. Joel, Timmy, it's good to see you guys. You both have done the podcast separately, but this is a smorgasbord of fun.
This is the first of 700 duo appearances on this podcast together.
It's good to see you both, man. Congratulations on the film. I really enjoyed this one.
Thank you.
Great piece of work. First of all, let's talk movies for a second, because I ran into this guy at Toronto. You were seeing some movies for fun.
Yes. Well, I was there. I had a reason to be there too.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. But you saw some good stuff there,
Yes.
I assume. What have we seen? What are we excited for? This is the season. This is the good stuff, man.
Uncut Gems. Awesome.
It's amazing.
Oh, have you seen it?
Yes, I mean, I had a meeting in Toronto, but I was really there to go see Uncut
hang with
Gems.
the Safdies,
yeah. But also because, it was in Toronto, and man, it was just such a good time to be there.
I really want to see that too.
Yeah.
I really want to see The Irishman. I really want to see The Joker. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
There's a bunch of cool stuff out there that I want to see. But yeah, Uncut Gems, I reckon, is going to be... From the moment I heard about that film, I was like, that's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
The energy on screen that I just saw it for the second time last night, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
Did they do another
just-
press screening?
They did a press screening,
Okay.
and they're screening it at New York Film Festival this week.
The third.
And I'm talking to the Safdies and Sandler this week. It's just... What they bring to the screen is amazing. The energy, right?
I did a write-up on Variety or something, but I haven't heard from them, so I hope I didn't offend them or anything.
To be fair, I think it just broke like an hour ago. I think.
Yeah.
just- so-
Okay, good. Yeah. Just took my phone off airplane mode and didn't get a ding, and I was like, uh-oh. No, I'm kidding.
What you said nice things about
No,
that.
I did, but I guess I made a joke at the beginning about, it's all good.
All good.
It's all good.
You
Yeah.
were going to be fine. I
Yeah.
think they're going to. Yeah, it's all going to be good.
Oop, I just got a hate audio message from John. No.
Fuck you, Chalamet. Let's talk a little bit about The King. This film is, we've seen a lot of different interpretations of Shakespearean texts over the years. This comes from Michaud and you, freaking collaborators. A bit of an Animal Kingdom reunion on this one. I'd like to see a lot of familiar faces. What was the initial...
It'd be funny if you got married at the end to Jackie Weaver.
Just wait for the credits.
Yeah.
It's such a twist.
She was busy.
What's the germ of the idea? What makes this worth doing for you, Joel, to invest all this time and energy?
Oh, look, a number of things. I think, really it's about 20 years ago because I played Hal on stage, and then the year after sort of backed it up by doing Henry V. And I've just had those players and that character in my head for so long. And when it came around to kind of 2012 or 13, I'd been asked to do a Sword and Horse movie that I didn't really love. But so much of the sort of speaking and speeches within it were reminiscent to me of various Shakespeare monologues. And I was like, what if we... Would it be possible for us to make a version of Henry V? And I actually thought at the time I'd just get laughed out of the room, but the people that I pitched that idea to were like, yeah, go away and write it and we'll pay you. And I was like, right. So then that's when I started...
over on them again.
Yeah, and that's when I started hiding behind David Michaud.
It was his idea the whole time.
No, you
Until
do
the screen
it.
went, then it's your
David,
idea.
you do this.
What do you see? Okay, let's pretend Timmy's not here. When you see someone like Timothée on the screen, I mean, he obviously jumps off the screen from an actor's perspective. What do you see in his performances early on that's making you say, this guy has to play Hal, has to play Henry?
Well, what's really interesting is when David, I think has an incredible casting brain, clearly because he cast me in the film. But this idea of like you say, a lot of people have sort of trod on this territory before, and quite often you see the king played by somebody that is older, essentially, and Henry was 26 when he became the king, and there's this one single painting of him in profile, and he doesn't look like he's some medieval UFC fighter of the age of 30 or something. He looks like a young person. And so the physical type and the age was there, and it just happened that the beauty of the fact that we didn't get to make the movie when we first wrote it, because Timmy we'd have had to drag him out of like 8th grade.
Voice cracking.
Or in reality,
Follow me, guys.
find someone else. Find someone else. That those two roads, the juncture where it arrived was the arrival of Timmy, and after a number of incredible performances, to then be able to put him in the throne at the very time that he's sort of sitting in a different kind of throne as an actor. It just seemed like the perfect marriage of elements,
And it's just so thrilling also to see a young actor to start to explore new territory. We've never seen you in this context before, clearly. We've talked before about like challenges. That seems to be like the name of the game for you, at least at this stage of your career. Perhaps always, hopefully, of chasing the stuff that's elusive and challenging. There are a number of challenges with this one. What's the one that jumped out that scared you the most and excited you the most?
Perhaps the whole of it, and just how sometimes I can read something and think, oh, okay, this makes sense to me why I was kept in mind for this, or maybe they're going off this movie I did or something. And this was one where I thought, whoa, I read it twice before I met with David. And the first time I thought, oh, this is an excellent script, for whoever does it, and this is cool. And the second time I really try to, put myself in those shoes as a reader, as a performer, but then also almost like as a total impartial audience member.
Yeah.
And I thought, whoa, like this. Once David made it clear to me to get it out of my head that we were going to try and top Sir Laurence Olivier or Kenneth Branagh, but rather go for a not contemporary, but contemporary by way of its urgent feeling portrait of a guy who's way beyond his circumstance and who has good intent, but is basically hopeless the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's this thing I said in the Q&A that David maybe made fun of me for a little bit, but I mean it. It's like what I love about David's movies so much is they're about what they're about, and I think it's almost admirable in this day and age where, songs on albums are 1:50 so they don't drag on too long, and then movies or TV shows will try to work in every theme and element in the world to check every box, and that's not what this is. This is just it's just a brutalist portrait of somebody going through a very tough thing.
The funny thing also that occurs to me is like, a lot of actors your age end up doing a lot of coming of age stories, and you are, but they're in different contexts.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that.
You've traded for, like an Italian villa for a really dirty battlefield, and I have a feeling even the next one we'll talk about, Dune, is a bit of a coming of age in a way too. These are transitions from boys to men,
right? And
this one's even marked by like, you have your like Pretty Woman makeover. You cut your hair, and then like you're the king.
right.
I mean, do you first have to kind of like buy yourself in that context? I mean, to be like a leader of men, to like wear the chainmail, and to like deliver that kind of speech.
No, and I think that's a testament to getting to work with Joel Edgerton and it's weird you're sitting right here. I could have just said Joel. And again, but also
Joel demands that his name's being used
at least yes, he'll hit me if I don't do that. You'll leave the room and he'll hit me.
It's not one of those names that you leave the little pause so it's a name drop, is it? Joel Edgerton. Tom Cruise.
No, but this movie's best suited to that question almost, because this is the one that would have required the biggest leap if I wanted to buy myself in advance, but actually required none because I could just go off David and trust in him. And as it relates to your first point, I feel like this is like a political coming of age, and not in the realm of government or politics, but in the realm of the cynical reality that is life for some people, that life itself and social dynamics becomes politic in some way.
Yeah. And it is sort of about also the intractable nature of society and politics. Of like, even with the best of intentions, we're a cyclical race. We repeat the mistakes of our fathers and mothers, and that's sort of the lesson, if there is one, maybe, of this. I don't know how we break that,
Right.
especially in 2019, where it feels like we're not to make it too real, folks, but we're living that.
Yeah, and it seems to me like, what's interesting is that, the template of somebody entering a high stakes position with the ideology that they can be the one person that can change a system or to presume to do things differently.
Yeah, this time it will be
the
different.
change of systems happens sadly very slowly, but change within an individual can happen subtly under the surface very quickly.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about just the fight stuff? Because like you guys, I mean, really capture this stuff in a very visceral, powerful way. There's some continuous shots that I found really striking. And again, new territory for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you take to it? Did you feel like...
I did, because Joel was still cutting Boy Erase, so he had to get back to the States to edit it, so they shot his stuff out first. So I went to set to watch Joel going to work, and he was relishing it. He was viscerally enjoying every second. He had a little straw in the mud, and he was drinking the mud up, and he was loving it. And I knew when it came time for me to get going that the best way to do it would be to lean into it, and not in some pretentious way either, but truly like it's less about the choreography of those scenes, and maybe this makes it a little more dangerous, but it's more about what a clusterfuck it is.
Yeah, the messiness is what makes it kind of visceral. And
I remember
powerful.
those early conversations David and I had about when we were writing it, and this is also comes from working with my brother a lot, Nash. His theory, and there was always this theory that even a car chase or a foot chase or a fight scene should all have a story of its own, and really should be rooted in a point of view. That I think the problem with a lot of big battles, and you can understand why, and with all respect to anybody who's ever tried them, it's just hard to do, but there's a lot of jumping around, and David had this really firm sense that we needed each scene that had any kind of violence in it to have its own point of view, that once you're with Hal, you're just with Hal, and it allows you to feel the claustrophobia, the danger, the imminent danger of not being able to look around and see what's coming next. It's the way that I felt when I watched Straight Time with Dustin Hoffman, is that the choice to just stay in the bank while those guys were robbing.
Yeah.
If you cut to a quiet street outside, you go, tension's gone because I know that the police aren't there.
Yeah.
You just stay with the person you're with. That's why the Safdie brothers are so great too.
Yeah.
I mean, they just
You're
stick
in
with
it.
Rob's character in that film. Is
You're
like,
stuck there. Yeah. Let's. You mentioned Rob. I have to mention Rob because Rob is amazing in this.
see, I gave you that segue then.
No, I was gonna pick it up anyway, but you're good. You're good. Pattinson kills it. I mean, he comes in like an hour in, and it just breaks the tension in a fascinating way.
Yes.
It's like a Nick Cage performance to me. It's like a guy that's just like going for it, and it's like this is either gonna work or it's not gonna work.
Right.
And thankfully it works.
Yeah.
What was it like to see like what Rob was doing when he came to set?
I don't know about you, but I remember that first day because when he, he's sitting in the throne in the tent, it was like watching a theatre performance for the first time, because when we just started shooting, and I think it would have been the first rehearsal of just watching Rob do that, and part his hair with his pinky and do all this stuff. And I was like, wow. It was like, yeah, go big or go home, but coming from an honest place. That's why I love big performances, and there's subtlety to it as well, but there's a certain largesse in the character that he's playing. And I believe that those performances are great when people like walk out on a thin limb, and if it comes from an honest place, it lives and deserves to be in the film. And that's what's so kind of risky and great about it.
You've worked with another one of those, like I think of Tom Hardy, folks like that. Again, that there's something indescribable about what they bring. It's wholly unique. Are there actors like that you would like to shadow on a set, just sort of see how they do what they do, just out of curiosity?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, look, I've worked with Christian, but I didn't get to like shadow him, as in like go and sneak into his trailer and watch him have a talk to himself or anything like that. Oh, look, there's so many of them. I would love to get a time machine and go back and basically hang out with Gary Oldman during the early years of those sort of wild performances from film to film, just jumping all over the map.
Yeah.
And really kind of bringing electricity and danger to the screen. But it's impossible to really get inside another actor's head. All you can do is sit back and marvel sometimes. I remember I had the luxury of working with Dennis Hopper when I was like 23, when I was like your age, and he was talking about working with James Dean. And he said at one point they were sitting in a car together because they worked on Rebel Without a Cause. he said, I just looked across at in between takes to Jimmy, and he said, Dennis said to him, what are you doing? Like, what is it that you're doing? Because he just couldn't quite work out why this kid was so interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he even explained it to him, but it was like Dennis was like envious and angry and like curious all at the same time because there was some frequency coming off him
What about
that he couldn't describe.
for you, Timmy? Are there performances that you keep coming back to? I mean, I know we've talked about how Dark Knight was important to you and Ledger's performance. Are there performances like that, or even in more recent years, that you keep coming back to that stick in your mind that are hard to shake and you kind of want to decipher?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think of Uncut Gems again. I mean, there was a Sandler performance in that, and I think maybe just of the time, or maybe of just of this month or something, or of this week, I'm more and more fascinated by like the kind of like Rob and the King, and these roles or these appearances that are sharp and biting and strike a match within a movie, and as opposed to like setting the tone of it in some way.
Sure. Falstaff kind of functions as kind of like the one true voice in Timmy's character's life, right? Like, do you feel like you guys have that in your own lives, where you have like friends that you can lean on, where maybe if you're getting caught up in the business, quote unquote, too much, that will call you out on your shit? Is that important to have?
I got my brother. He's sort of like my litmus test with most things. Choices about work, just general good outside opinion.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the other voice that echoes in my head. And, on a creative level, David is one of the people I always go to. I'm like, written something, can you tell me I'm an idiot or not? Yeah.
Who do you turn to if you have questions about whether it's a performance, a choice, a business choice, etc.?
Like the closest tarot reader, like tarot card reader.
Oh, that's literally Jesus, I'm like, I thought he was being metaphorical. He's like, nope, I go to a gypsy on the corner.
Yeah. The marvelous Greta. Sit down to me.
But is it instinctual? Because like, we've talked in these very unique years for you, where you're getting more and more choice. Do you find you're following your gut, and is that easy to do? Do you second guess yourself, the choices you're making?
Well, no, because the truth is, this felt like a no-brainer, then Little Women felt like a no-brainer, and then a Wes Anderson project felt like a no-brainer, and then Dune felt like a no-brainer, and then I finished a month ago. So that's, since the last time we talked, that's what it's been. So, there hasn't been a lot of calculation, and within my own life, I feel like I'm lucky I grew up, if not in show business, around it in New York, and so I feel wise to its traps, I guess, which is what the ignorant man says right before he fucking falls into a hole. And
don't worry. Joel, sadly, you and I are probably old enough to be Timmy's father. Has he educated you about anything of the young ways of the world, about the Instagrams and and what the kids are listening to?
No,
these
he's
days?
the one that's sending me animojis.
This is true. He did just spend 10 minutes showing me how to create a poop emoji.
I'm wise to the world of the internet, the worldwide interweb. It's weird, like I couldn't send an email until I finished high school, as in not that I didn't know how, it's just that you couldn't. And I worry about what my life would have been like if I had access to a smartphone while I was in high school. Like, I don't think I'd be sitting here with you today. I probably would have squandered my life on all the wrong things. But
in an internet cafe in Sydney right now.
yeah. So, it's a wild thing, the power of the internet, and But no, I learn things from everybody, old and young, just by observation and time spent. And I think there's more to learn from a younger generation than there is necessarily from an older generation. Mm-hmm. We always think that the older people are the wiser ones. I think the tide's turned.
Yeah, educate us, Timmy. Save us from ourselves, please.
Soothsay.
No pressure, but it's all on you.
Yes.
The planet is in the balance. There's no pressure there. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Timmy's looking at your setup here, and he's going, "This is like, what is this? So these relics, these.
Why are there wires?
Yeah, there are wires everywhere.
Give me a little Dune. Tell me a little bit. Like, what's the most surreal day on set? What's a snapshot of what Denis has captured in Dune?
I don't know what I'm allowed to say, but it was just a totally surreal experience and total dream to work with Denis. And he sent me a nice message about the trailer of this, actually. And yeah, he's very excited to see this. And
Also, the cast he assembled
was insane. It was really insane. And no, but again, I feel like I'm getting this really, incredible opportunity to work with really great actors that are equally not jaded as they are excited about the work they're still doing. And it's like working with Joel and Sean Harris and Ben Mendelsohn, and on that it was Oscar Isaac and Josh Brolin and Zendaya and just
Javier
Bardem. I mean, yeah, it just and also it's cool. I don't know. Oscar and I were talking about it on set one day. I love that he said like, Dune's a very grounded story, particularly as it relates to the other stories in that genre. But he was, without divulging all the details of the conversation, he was talking about the surreality of it, the surreal elements of the story, even though Denis was sticking close to the book and keeping it grounded. And I love seeing Oscar and Javier and Brolin and Zendaya and Rebecca work within that surreality and bring a groundedness to it. It felt like storytelling, in its truest form, telling a story.
Were there lessons from this that you brought to that? I mean, there are some not even superficial. There are some connections, I feel like, between these characters.
Absolutely. And I think perhaps more subconsciously than anything I could formulate, but I mean, yes and no. It's obviously because of the period and one taking place, or both taking place in wildly different time periods and maybe different universes. That made it different, obviously. But yeah, there's a parallel in between, young men thrust into circumstance before they're ready and not quite knowing what to do with it.
Have you worked with Barry yet? Barry Jenkins, Mr. Edgerton? That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Underground Railroad.
We're having a pretty amazing time. I mean, I've been sort of traveling back and forth doing press on this and then going into that world. It's quite, I mean, that separation I find quite surreal. Doing the kind of red carpet dance and promotional aspects of the film, and then going and back and doing the work and going back and forth, I find quite tricky. But yeah, he's an incredible man. I just feel very, it's like Timmy was saying, it's like the privilege of being able to work with really great people, and it's one of those phone calls that you just go, all right, I'll turn up, whatever you want me to do. Yeah. Because, you really hope that you're always in really safe hands. Yeah. Because, filmmaking is a village, and you hope that the shaman at the head of the village or whoever that is just someone that actually knows how to run the village, and then you can do your job. Barry's just sort of so in control of what he's doing.
For many years, I feel like we've joked about, like, when's Owen showing up in a Star Wars project? Okay, now, Joel, my friend, we've got an Obi-Wan TV series, and if I do the math on the timeline, Owen's around. So, as much as we've joked, I feel like this could actually happen now.
Why is Joel melting into a puddle on the floor?
Just looking. No, look, there is a very real possibility. Like there's potentially an assassin on a rooftop just outside the window. That if I said the wrong thing, I could just like.
Why is there a guy with a Disney logo on that roof?
Let me put it this way: did you ever think this was even a remote possibility? Because now it does actually feel like this could actually.
Well, there's been rumors of it for years, and no, I never thought that there was ever a world where I would sort of go back to that universe, because I thought, back in the day, George said that there would only be a certain amount of movies and that was it. But when Disney took it over and started kind of really, really getting back to the old juice, the kind of aesthetic of the first three films, you're like, there's a possibility. And then, once you started to hear they were doing all these sort of breakaway standalone things. So, yeah.
Have you talked to Ewan?
Ewan who?
Oh my God! Timmy, translate for me. I think
this is me being all coy. I had this friend who was really annoying. Ewan McGregor. What, me and McGregor? Just like, okay. No, I haven't spoken to Ewan for a while. I saw it last time I saw him was God knows where. He's a beautiful guy though, and I'm really glad that they're doing that. And I don't know. Let's talk about other stuff.
I didn't even realize.
I'd love to say all sorts of things. I'm just not going to.
I legit think I'm going to see you in it. I'm just excited now.
Okay.
Sorry, I was peeking.
We're bouncing around while you're excited. You guys are working on too many exciting things. Wes Anderson.
Yes.
Did it live up to that?
Yeah, total like an absolute trip, and one of those experiences as an actor where I was really just pinching myself the whole time and thinking, how have I? Okay, somebody's coming to the room now, and no, but that just pinching myself. Like, how did I find myself in this world? And that's not a metaphor. It's really just like a world in and of its own. And at night there's cast dinners, and he's that word's thrown around a lot, but he's really just he's a genius, and it's humbling to be a cog in the machine of his storytelling, and equally a pinch me moment to be with those folks that have been in a lot of his movies, like Bill Murray and Tilda Swinton, Frances McDormand, Saoirse's in it as well, like the last night. This is not my place anyway, so I don't know why I was doing this, but it was like my last night, and the other young folks in the movies there last night too. So they kind of put me up to it to give a little speech, and the best speeches are short and sweet, but I got a little carried away. And then as I sat down, Bill Murray clinked his glass, and I thought, oh fuck, he's gonna. And sure enough, he stood up and he said, "Edit." And that was it. Like, that's the only thing he said.
You got Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Classic Murray. What's going to be the abiding memory of this production? This couldn't have been an easy shoot just by the nature of it. What's the?
I think it made me realise the power of the pen, or well, in that case, the computer, and the disconnect that begins with writing something on a page and hoping with all intention that it will come to life, but having the doubt that it will ever come to be, and particularly of something of this epic nature. I remember the bookend of having that feeling writing the screenplay with David, of us sitting in the sand in Lombok, first mapping out the Battle of Agincourt, was standing in the field in Budapest with hundreds of people in armour and horses everywhere and mud, and just going, wow, we made this happen, and someone let us build this, put this together, and just how privileged it is, and just going, how did this even happen? Obviously, like I said before, I hid behind David. Like, I just go, I'm glad I'm not directing this thing, but wow, we're lucky enough to have the privilege of doing this. And why be cynical? Because it's very easy for cynicism to drop into your brain the older you get, or when you're faced with hard work.
Yeah.
But to be reminded of like the 10-year-old version of you that would just like marvel at the surroundings that you get to grow up into.
Well, and this is a movie with a capital M. I mean, I'm on a movie set. Like, that's like a special thing for those of all three of us grew up obsessed with this medium.
Yeah.
I like that you say it like that too, and I think Joel could maybe speak to this better than I could, but for me, it all spoke to the Netflix of it all too, and all I mean by that is every set I had been on, whether it was like a TV show or having a small part in Interstellar, I could kind of, even though I wasn't really in the industry, I could kind of gauge what, not that anything ever felt commercial or made for commercial reasons, but you kind of gauge what the vibe was. And here, beautifully, I really felt like we were just making it for what it was. Like that day we had the trebuchets on set, and they're shooting flames into the hills, and
real ones too, not that's all real.
So they built the trebuchets.
That was a real pinch me moment too.
Yeah.
You just go, we've got real trebuchets.
And you kept them, and they're in your garage, no?
I have one in my backyard, My neighbours are very
Your neighbors are terrified.
Never visit Joel's garage.
Yeah, don't go near him. He's a scary dude.
You don't like me out with the music up loud? All right. Get the trebuchet.
I thought I knew you before today, but between the poop emoji stuff and this...
And owning a trebuchet?
Yeah, this is...
My property line starts there.
Timmy's an open book compared to you, man. It's always good to catch up with you both, as evidenced by all the other projects we also mentioned. I'm going to talk to you guys a lot in the next year. I hope you're directing again soon, too. Any
I will
plans?
be.
Okay, good.
Yeah. No, look, directing is the greatest job in the world.
Yeah.
It really is, but you really have to be match fit for it as well, because it's an undertaking. It's like, it's like tapping the glass in a big function hall, and you're about to make a speech or tell a story. Yeah. you have to feel the confidence going in and coming out of it, and fortify your ego for every step of the process. You know, acting is like, I always say, I'm sure I've said this to you before, is acting is the privilege of being able to be a child, and directing is running the household.
Yeah, that's an adult job, to say the least.
Yeah.
It's good to catch up with you both.
Great, thank you, man.
And so ends another edition of Happy, Sad, Confused. Remember to review, rate, and subscribe to this show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm a big podcast person. I'm Daisy Ridley, and I definitely wasn't pressured to do this by Josh.